Secretary, thank you very much for your hands-on efforts in dealing with this terrible tragedy. I recognize, as we all do, that the immediate task at hand is to stop the flow of oil. We all recognize that. But I think, as you indicated in your opening remarks, perhaps this is also a wake-up call in terms of future policy, energy policy. My question to begin with is the following. As you know, in 2008, both Congress and former President Bush lifted long-standing moratoria on offshore drilling in the outer continental shelf of the Atlantic and Pacific coasts. And the Energy Environmental Administration studied the issue, and what they found was that new drilling in the Atlantic and Pacific would deliver to consumers a total savings in the year 2030 of 3 cents a gallon. 3 cents a gallon. Meanwhile, by going forward with stronger CAFE standards of 35 miles per gallon, in that same year, we're going to save consumers $1 a gallon. Now, everything we do deals with risks and benefits. So my question to you is, would you recommend to the President that he reinstate the permanent moratorium on new drilling offshore in the Atlantic and Pacific and focus on saving oil through progressively higher fuel economy standards? In other words, is it worth it to expose ourselves to these risks to save 3 cents a gallon in the year 2030?
Senator Sanders, thank you very much for your service and for your questions. Let me respond in two ways. First, this administration, from the beginning that we have been involved in the energy debate, in fact, even during the campaign, have made efficiency one of the highest orders of business, because we believe that that ultimately is critical for us to get a more energy independent nation. And the CAFE standards alone, based on what the Department of Transportation and what EPA have done with respect to their regulations, are going to exceed far and above and beyond whatever this Congress ever contemplated, and that will save millions of barrels of oil. And so the savings measure and your message is well heard and is being executed by this President and his administration every day. Number two, on your question concerning the outer continental shelf and bans on the Atlantic and the Pacific, if I may, Mr. Chairman, maybe I ought to take a few minutes and just give you more of an overview of, since this question relates to the outer continental shelf and what our proposal had been. It may take me a few minutes to do this.
Well, you guys supported the Bush administration in lifting the moratorium.
Let me be specific on what our plan is with respect to the OCS, and I will start with you, Senator Sanders, concerning the Atlantic, because I know that that's an important part of it. But let me back up and say, when I look at the outer continental shelf, there obviously are the four major areas that have to be looked at. It's the Atlantic, it's the Gulf of Mexico, it's the area in the west along California, Oregon, and Washington, and then obviously the Alaskan areas. The plan that we put together in March essentially was a coming together of what was a very thoughtful way forward in terms of dealing with the outer continental shelf. And so in the area of the Atlantic, which I know you are concerned about, in the northern part of the Atlantic, we said we will not even do seismic up there, and it will not be, there will be no lease sales. In the area of the mid-Atlantic and the South Atlantic, because of different considerations there, including the strong support from the state of Virginia and the 2 U.S. senators from the state of Virginia, what we said there is that we essentially would develop additional information. I still think that is the right thing to do because of the fact that we need to know what the facts are, so that if there's a debate about it, we know what we're fighting about. No one has done anything with respect to seismic out in the Atlantic for a period of 30 years. With respect to, on the Atlantic, the Virginia lease sale itself, that is something which is on the schedule from the current OCS plan. There are issues that are being considered in the environmental analysis, including conflicts with respect to the military. With respect to the Gulf Coast, which I know Senator Landrieu and
Mr.
others.
Secretary, I'm running out of time, but can you give me an answer to the question? Is it worth the risk? Is 3 cents a gallon in the year 2030 worth the potential risk of another disaster like this? And should we reinstate the moratorium?
You know, Senator Sanders, the reality of it is that we will be depending on oil and gas as we transition to a new energy future. And when you look at certain areas, specifically in the Gulf of Mexico, that is where we know there are huge energy, oil, and natural gas resources. You are not going to turn off the lights of this country or the economy by shutting it all down. And so it's important for us
Now,
to—
no one is talking about shutting it all down. We're talking about reinstating the moratorium that had been going on, existing for many, many years.
You know, I think
new drilling.
Senator Sanders, I don't mean to be argumentative with you, but I think what we need to do, as the President has done and as we have done, is we've hit the pause button, okay? And we will be evaluating a number of different issues and making decisions about how we are going to move forward.
Okay. Well, let me just conclude. Thank you, Mr. I don't believe the risk is worth 3 cents a gallon in the year 2030.